a crazy era of NIL where schools are putting out unheard of amounts of money. We know that this amount of money has been flowing around college football for decades now, but it's finally public, it's finally legal per se. When the news breaks that Bryce Underwood was offered $10 million dollars from the Wolverines to flip his commitment from LSU to Michigan, were you surprised by that desire to keep homegrown talent in Michigan?
I'm certainly not by the desire to, but it's certainly a change from the last regime that Michigan had, right? Under Jim Harbaugh, his mantra was transformational, not transactional, with the thought that we're not going to offer money to recruits. We're going to tell them, come to Michigan. If you play well, you'll get paid. And even if you don't get paid, you're going to have a transformational experience. Tyrone Moore, he has beefed up the recruiting staff, and certainly it seems like a change of philosophy when it comes to keeping talent in state. It is certainly very important for Michigan to keep its top talent in county almost, right? And Bryce Underwood is as talented as they come.
So when we look at the last week, since that news broke about the $10 million check to slowly but surely, Bryce Underwood's teammates at Belleville have been flipping their recruitments. It's fascinating for us to watch on the outside. How has this unfolded from Ann Arbor?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to note that it's not necessarily all about money. I think that Bryce Underwood and his camp were probably a little bit uncomfortable with the dollar amount leaking, because the fact of the matter is, whatever the dollar figure is, it's probably not a flat out one check that he's getting. He's not getting a giant, promotional check that says Bryce Underwood $10 million on it. That's just not how that works. That being said, it's an exciting time for Michigan football. This is something that they've been working on, a recruitment that they've been working on for quite some time, right? Bryce Underwood, since he was in middle school, is a guy that people have had their eyes on. And obviously LSU secured his commitment first, but you don't let a player of that talent go without a fight, and you fight until the whistle. And to be perfectly honest, like, the whistle isn't here yet. He has not yet signed, right? So Michigan has to keep fighting. But in a lot of ways, he is the biggest domino to fall, because he has teammates, he has people he's close to in recruiting circles who were planning on joining him at LSU. Do those people now eye Ann Arbor and know that, hey, Michigan is a player in this game at both a high football achieving school that just won a national championship, a school that is now more involved financially as well in the recruiting aspect, and that offers the educational piece that they and Sharon Moore hopes to keep selling as part of this program.
And when you look at his teammates and the collateral that can come with Bryce Underwood, how much do you think this means, big domino and little dominoes, for a school that, like you said, just won a national championship, but also has clearly been having a bounce back year?
Oh, it's absolutely massive. I mean, you look at what Michigan has and has not accomplished this year. A lot of that starts with the quarterback position, right? And this year, Michigan it put itself into a bad situation with the way that, with the timing of Jim Harbaugh leaving, and then JJ McCarthy making his decision late because Michigan was playing for a national championship last year, meant that Michigan and a new regime and new coaches had a very limited window to pursue players in the transfer portal or recruiting last year, because they didn't know who the staff was going to be. This year, as I mentioned, Sharon Moore has really beefed up the recruiting staff. He has engaged with NIL and gotten donor money. And when you land a commitment like Bryce Underwood, like, this is, there's a reason we're talking. This is massive, massive news. It makes national waves. And for any high level recruit who is, maybe potentially interested in Michigan, it's a lot easier to say yes to a program like Michigan when you know that if you commit, you're an offensive player, you're playing with such a talented quarterback. I think it's important for the program because, as you mentioned, this has not been the most successful year for Michigan football, right? I mean, there's a Northwestern game coming up this weekend. There's Ohio State in a little more than a week from now. And this is a team that's fighting for bowl eligibility. And for fans who had such high expectations after the Jim Harbaugh era, there were certainly question marks about what Sharon Moore was going to be able to accomplish. And he's a first-time head coach. He's a younger guy. Was his tenure going to be successful? And certainly one commitment does not answer that question fully, but it gives fans a lot to be excited about for next year and beyond.